I started researching this video with more than 20 Michigan relocation offers. 9 of them did not survive the verification check. The old Move to Michigan mortgage program is closed. Make Detroit Home is closed. Northwest Michigan's relocation offer is closed. Muskegon County's remote worker program is paused. Genesee Future Forward is not accepting movers yet. Teach Here West Michigan is paused. West Michigan Rooted is waitlisted. Detroit's Tech Fellowship is closed. And the 2026 Founder Forward application window ended back in November 2025. Those programs are still easy to find online. They are not in this list. Everything you are about to hear was checked against the administering organization or official application page on August 28, 2026. And one clarification matters before we start. Michigan does not currently have 12 separate towns writing 12 separate relocation checks. These are 12 communities covered by 4 active incentive systems. For every town, you will get the amount, who actually qualifies, how the benefit works, what happens if you leave, what the program says about taxes, what housing costs look like, and the reason you may decide not to move there. Number 1 has the biggest verified figure, $55,000. But almost nobody watching qualifies for the full amount without meeting several conditions first, starting at number 12. Number 12 is Durand, a town of roughly 3,500 people in Shiawassee County. The program advertises about $3,800 in relocation value. That does not mean Durand hands you a $3,800 check. Most of that value comes through benefits, such as local memberships, market certificates, entertainment, relocation assistance, and potentially mortgage-related offers. The qualification rule matters more than the number. You must currently live outside Michigan. You need to be at least 18. You must have a full-time remote job you can keep after moving, or qualifying self-employment with clients you can retain. Your annual income must be at least $50,000, and you need to establish your primary residence in Shiawassee County within 6 months. No public minimum stay requirement or repayment formula was posted when I checked. Tax treatment was not clearly stated either. One thing to say plainly, I'm not a tax professional or an attorney. Grant income, clawback terms, and state residency rules vary, and the difference matters. Before you sign anything, run it past someone licensed in that state. Housing is the stronger part of Durand's argument. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value measure was about $161,000. You are also around half an hour from Flint's airport, depending on the address. The downside is scale. Local services, entertainment, and employment depth are limited. This fits you if your income already travels with you and you want housing costs to fall more than your lifestyle options need to rise. Number 11 pays the same advertised $3,800 in value, but Corunna gives you a slightly different calculation. You are looking at a county seat community of only about 3,000 people. The eligibility is identical to Durand because this is the same Discover Shiawassee program. You need to be moving from outside Michigan, earning at least $50,000 through a remote job or portable self-employment, and able to relocate within 6 months. Again, the $3,800 is mostly a package of benefits. Do not budget as though $3,800 lands in your checking account. When I checked, the public terms did not publish a post-move minimum stay, a clawback formula, or clear tax treatment. Housing was running around a $207,000 typical value in the available 2026 Zillow data. Older ACS data put median gross rent around $867. Memorial Healthcare is nearby in Owosso, roughly 10 to 15 minutes depending on where you live. Lansing is roughly 40 minutes away. There is also a small but useful housing signal here. Shiawassee's development organization reported construction beginning on 10 new single-family homes in Corunna in July 2026. The downside is exactly what the population suggests. This is a very small market, so housing statistics move around and your local options narrow quickly. Corunna fits you if your career is already solved, and what you want from Michigan is a low-key home base rather than a deep local economy. The catch comes first at number 10. Owosso's relocation package is also advertised at $3,800, but the program requires you to arrive with at least $50,000 of portable annual income. You cannot move there first and then hope to qualify. You need to live outside Michigan when applying. You must keep your existing remote employment or retain your clients if you are self-employed. You need to move your primary residence into Shiawassee County within 6 months. What do you get? The package can include an Owosso Speedway Season Pass, Farmers Market Certificates, YMCA membership, relocation help, partner job search support, and several mortgage-related offers depending on the lender and your qualifications. That can be useful. It is still not $3,800 in cash. Owosso is much larger than Corunna or Durand, with roughly 14,500 residents. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value figure was about $191,000. Older census rent data put the median around $831. You also have Memorial Healthcare in town, while Lansing and Flint are within practical driving distance. The local development group says parts of the county can get fiber service up to 1 gigabit, but you still need to check the exact address before signing a lease. The downside is that the program's biggest hurdle comes before Michigan gives you anything. You already need a solid portable income. If you earn at least $50,000 remotely and want a smaller Michigan city with healthcare nearby, Owosso is the strongest of the 3 Shiawassee choices. Number 9 pays more, and this is where the rules reverse. Benton Harbor is covered by Discover Southwest Michigan. If you qualify as a first-time homebuyer, the clear housing benefit is $5,000 in down payment assistance. If you rent, it is $2,500 in rental assistance. You may see an advertised package value of $11,000. That figure includes conditional and non-cash benefits, so do not call it an $11,000 relocation check. And unlike Shiawassee, remote work disqualifies you. You must currently live outside Michigan and secure a full-time job physically located in Berrien, Cass, or Van Buren County, paying at least $40,000 a year. Gig workers, remote workers, and self-employed applicants are excluded. You also agree to live in the region for at least 1 year. The current public page does not publish a clawback formula or tax treatment. Selected applicants receive formal terms, so those documents matter. Now the housing arithmetic. Benton Harbor's July 2026 typical home value figure was around $159,000. That makes a $5,000 buyer benefit equal to a little over 3% of that citywide value proxy. But cheap housing has context. Census data put the city's poverty rate above 40% for 2020 through 2024, and the population has continued declining. Broadband subscriptions also trail nearby St. Joseph. Corewell Health's hospital is across the river in St. Joseph. This fits you if you already have a qualifying Southwest Michigan job, and low purchase price matters more than polished citywide economic indicators. The next 4 use that same local job program, but the economics change dramatically from town to town. Then the list jumps to a completely different offer, worth up to $15,000, with an occupation requirement that removes most applicants. Number 8 is Dowagiac, and here the incentive may be easier to understand than the labor market. You can receive $5,000 toward a first home or $2,500 toward renting under Discover Southwest Michigan. The conditions are the same as Benton Harbor. You need to be at least 18, currently living outside Michigan, and taking a full-time job in Berrien, Cass, or Van Buren County, paying at least $40,000. You also need local housing and a 1-year commitment. Remote work does not qualify. Neither does gig work or self-employment. No public repayment formula or program-specific tax treatment was posted when this was verified. Dowagiac had about 5,700 residents in the 2025 estimate. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value measure was roughly $235,000, while census median gross rent was about $840. Broadband subscriptions were reported in roughly 9 out of 10 households. The nearest major metro services are towards South Bend, generally under an hour away depending on your route. I could not verify a sufficiently precise acute care hospital drive time from the available dossier, so that is something you should check from the exact address rather than take from a generic town profile. The downside is employment depth. The program requires a local job, and Dowagiac itself is small. This fits you if you already have the qualifying job lined up and prefer a smaller town housing market over a larger regional center. Number 7 is the program's strange border case. Niles offers the same $5,000 first-time buyer assistance or $2,500 rental assistance, but you are only about 20 to 25 minutes from South Bend. That sounds useful until you read the employment rule. A good job across the state line in Indiana does not satisfy the program. Your full-time job must be physically located in Berrien, Cass, or Van Buren County and pay at least $40,000 annually. You must be moving from outside Michigan, be at least 18, secure housing locally, and commit to the region for 1 year. Remote, gig, and self-employed workers do not qualify. The public page does not state the tax treatment or exact clawback formula. Niles had roughly 11,700 residents in 2025. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value measure was around $217,000. Median gross rent was about $855. Broadband subscriptions were reported in just under 90% of households, and Corewell Health has a hospital in Niles itself. The advantage is access. You get a small Michigan city, while South Bend's airport, shopping, and larger employment base sit close by. The downside is that the incentive does not care about that employment base if your job is on the Indiana side. Niles fits you if your employer is already inside the eligible Michigan counties, but you still want quick access to a larger metro area. Number 6 pays no more than Niles, and for some people, it will still be the better move. Pawpaw gives an eligible first-time buyer $5,000 toward a home, or a qualifying renter $2,500. You must arrive from outside Michigan with a full-time local job paying at least $40,000 in one of the 3 participating counties. Remote work, gig work, and self-employment are excluded. You need to commit to the region for at least a year. The program does not publicly spell out a repayment formula or tax treatment. Pawpaw itself is tiny, with roughly 3,300 residents, but housing is not as cheap as that population might make you expect. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value figure was about $284,000. That is considerably above Benton Harbor, Niles, Owosso, and Durand. You do have Bronson Lakeview Hospital in town. Kalamazoo's airport is roughly 30 to 40 minutes away, depending on where you start. The setting is different too. You are around Maple Lake, vineyards, orchards, and agricultural land rather than a larger industrial city. The downside is simple arithmetic. A $5,000 benefit against a roughly $284,000 typical home value does not move your monthly housing cost very far. Pawpaw fits you if you already qualify through local employment and want a very small community with healthcare nearby, not if your only goal is Michigan's lowest housing price. Quick thing while we're halfway through. Researching these programs takes longer than building the list, because the first job is removing programs that no longer accept people. So tell me 2 things in the comments. What state are you watching from? And are you remote or tied to a local workplace? Those answers tell me which relocation programs are actually useful to research next. And subscribe if you want the updated version. These programs change, pause, and run out of funding much faster than ordinary cost of living data. Number 5 is where the same $5,000 offer meets the most expensive Southwest Michigan housing market on this list. St. Joseph gives a qualifying first-time buyer $5,000 toward a home, or a renter $2,500. Again, you cannot qualify with a remote job. You must currently live outside Michigan and take full-time employment in Berrien, Cass, or Van Buren County, paying at least $40,000. You need to live in the region at least 1 year, and the program verifies both employment and residency before issuing the formal offer. No public clawback formula was posted. Tax treatment was also not stated. St. Joseph had roughly 7,900 residents in 2025. The bigger number is housing. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value measure was about $344,000. Compare that with roughly $159,000 in Benton Harbor, directly across the river. Median gross rent was about $1,081. You do get practical advantages. Corwell Health, Lakeland Medical Center is in town. South Bend International is roughly 40 minutes away. Household broadband subscription was above 93% in the available census period. You also get Lake Michigan, Silver Beach, and the Pier, which explains some of the housing premium without needing tourism language to sell it. The downside is that the incentive barely dents the purchase price, and local housing supply has been identified as a regional challenge. St. Joseph fits you if you already have the qualifying local salary and would choose the Lakeshore even without the program. Number 4, changes the entire eligibility model. Muskegon Heights can put you inside a program worth up to $15,000, but this one is for educators and specific education professionals. The Welcome Home Scholarship covers eligible early childhood workers, pre-K through grade 12 educators, and certain school support professionals, such as social workers, speech pathologists, and psychologists. You cannot already be living in Muskegon County when the award decision is made. You must move into the county, work for a qualifying in-person employer, and secure that job within 120 days of receiving the award. The money is not paid at once. It is distributed quarterly across 3 years, with the first payment after 90 days on the job. If you leave Muskegon County during the 3-year cycle, you lose future unpaid award money. The published terms do not say already paid installments are clawed back. Muskegon Heights had just under 10,000 residents. Zillow's July 2026 typical home value figure was roughly $90,000. That number needs discipline. It does not mean you can assume every $90,000 house is move-in ready. Condition varies sharply by property and neighborhood, and Muskegon County has documented a serious housing supply shortage. Trinity Health Muskegon Hospital is nearby. This fits you if you are already in a qualifying education profession and are willing to trade neighborhood-level due diligence for unusually low citywide housing values. Number 3 offers the same maximum $15,000, but the housing math looks completely different. Norton Shores is also covered by the Welcome Home Scholarship, so you need to be an eligible educator, early childhood professional, or qualifying school support worker. You cannot already live in Muskegon County when the decision is made. You need a qualifying local employer and must secure the position within 120 days. The award is competitive, paid quarterly across 3 years, and future installments disappear if you leave the county before completing the cycle. Now compare housing. Norton Shores' July 2026 typical home value measure was about $300,000. That is roughly $210,000 higher than the Muskegon Heights figure under the same county-wide incentive. Median rent was around $1,341. Broadband subscriptions were reported above 92% of households. Trinity Health Muskegon Hospital is nearby, and Grand Rapids plus Gerald R. Ford International Airport are generally within about an hour, depending on traffic and your address. You also have direct access to Lake Michigan dunes and beaches. The downside is obvious. The $15,000 maximum buys much less leverage here. Against a $300,000 typical home value proxy, it is roughly 5% before you consider that the full award is not guaranteed and arrives across 3 years. Norton Shores fits you if you qualify professionally and prioritize the Lakeshore environment over getting the lowest possible purchase price. Number 2 is the offer on this list with the strongest evidence that real people have actually used it. Muskegon's Welcome Home Scholarship can provide up to $15,000 to qualifying education professionals. That maximum can be used toward things such as moving expenses, student loans, continuing education, or a home down payment. But you need the right career. Eligible applicants include early childhood professionals, teachers, and specific school support specialists. You cannot already live in Muskegon County when the award is decided. You then need to move into the county, work for an eligible in-person school or licensed daycare employer, and secure the job within 120 days. Payment comes quarterly for 3 years, starting after your first 90 days on the job. Leave during the program cycle and you forfeit the unpaid balance. There is one status issue you should know. The Administering Community Foundation says awards are selected on a rolling basis until funds are depleted. A Make My Move mirror labels the program closed. For this video, I am following the Administering Foundation, but you should check that primary page again before applying. Muskegon had roughly 37,000 residents in 2025. The July 2026 Zillow Value Proxy was around $193,000, and census median rent was about $996. Trinity Health operates a major hospital here. Grand Rapids is roughly 50 minutes away. The county also says it needs thousands of additional housing units over the next several years, so supply is a real issue. And unlike most entries here, the foundation documents recipients, including returning education professionals, who used the program to move back into the county. This fits you if you work in education and want the best combination here of meaningful incentive size, healthcare, city services, and moderate housing costs. Number 1 is Jackson, and this is where the thumbnail number finally becomes real. Up to $55,000 in city housing assistance. But it is not a relocation check. It is not available to every buyer, and the full amount is limited. Jackson's 100 Homes program provides $25,000 in standard city down payment assistance for qualifying buyers purchasing designated new construction homes. A separate MLK-CIA layer can add another $30,000 for 10 approved buyers choosing eligible lots. That is how you reach $55,000. The program homes have a fixed base sales price of $178,000 before optional upgrades, so the standard $25,000 assistance equals about 14% of that base price. The limited $55,000 maximum equals nearly 31%. That is substantial housing assistance. It still never becomes $55,000 in your pocket. The city's program applies the assistance to the home purchase. You need household income within the program's limits, verified eligibility, homebuyer education, and approval for a traditional mortgage. The property must become your primary residence. Once accepted, you need to select an eligible city-owned lot and sign with an approved builder within 60 days. There is also a 5-year owner occupancy catch. If you sell, transfer the property, or stop using it as your principal residence during that period, repayment can be triggered. The recapturable balance falls by 1/60th for each month you remain compliant, reaching 0 after 5 years. There is another important 2026 detail. The city's webpage still displays an income table labeled 2024 Area Median Income, while the official guidelines warn that approvals after January 1, 2026 may operate under different rules or timelines. So do not use an old income limit screenshot to decide whether you qualify. Get the current figure from the city. Jackson had roughly 31,000 residents in the latest estimate. The program home price is $178,000, while Zillow's broader July 2026 area proxy was around $194,000. Median rent was about $898. Henry Ford Jackson Hospital gives you substantial local health care, and Ann Arbor is roughly 40 minutes away. The honest downside is that this is a structured, affordable home ownership program, not free money for choosing Jackson. You need mortgage approval, qualifying income, a designated property, and 5 years of owner occupancy if you want the assistance fully forgiven. This fits you if you are serious about buying rather than renting, can qualify for the mortgage, and are comfortable committing to the same home for 5 years. So those are the 12 Michigan communities I could defend as current on August 28, 2026. And remember what did not make the list. Detroit's old tech and relocation offers are closed. Northwest Michigan's program is closed. Muskegon's general remote worker incentive is paused. Genesee and Teach Here West Michigan are not currently fulfilling incentives, and West Michigan Rooted is waitlisted. That matters, because a live web page is not the same thing as a live application. If you live in one of these towns, or you actually went through one of these programs, put the correction in the comments. Tell people what the application process was like, how long payment took, and what condition mattered more than you expected. Check the official application again before you make a moving decision. Subscribe and you'll get the updated list before the next application window closes.